Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth album and song reviews, as well as artist interviews and general rap commentary sprinkled in between on all of what the mainstream and underground rap scenes have to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. What is up, family? I am back with a bonus episode that I recorded on February 3rd with my friends over at Freemusicempire, who graciously invited me over to their show, and specifically their series State of the Game, where we discussed the bold albums that were created recently by Hus Kingpin and Portishus, Pharaoh Monch and his th1rt3en project, and then finally NYCK Caution's latest effort. So our action for that day was to determine, okay, these artists made a lot of interesting decisions with their approach to these albums. Did they pull it off or no? And I think overall we got into a lot of great analysis. I love those guys over at Freemusicempire because they're hilarious, first of all, but they also bring a lot of interesting and insightful analysis to hip-hop music in a way that actually makes you think about it and listen to it with a new and fresh perspective. So check them out. I'll have the link in the description for where you can find their content. And otherwise, enjoy it.
Live from the apocalypse, State of the Game is back. I am your host, Dan O. And if I'm telling the truth, I spent the last 2 days in a Detroit Pistons throwback Dennis Rodman jersey. Regret nothing. My co-host, the original, he was swimming in GameStop stock before this popped off. Okay? Light as a feather, heavy as a brick. Kate Diggy, thank you for joining me. My co-host, my guest, we have an incredible guest. He's better at doing the Dougie than anyone could imagine, but that's not why he's here. He is the Rap Music Plug. He has the Rap Music Plug podcast. He's working the beat the same way we are, hitting the best music and just shouting about it. And so glad to have him here to shout with us.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me on. I really respect what you guys do out there with the Freemusicempire, and been really loving particularly just the analysis that you guys give. You definitely are similar to what I try to do, where I try to just go past like it's dope, it's whack, and actually try to give some real depth to why something is the way it is. I'm really happy to have you guys on, or to be on your show. Sorry.
And I think we have a similar thing in terms of we're looking at this from the buyer's perspective of like, I consume this stuff. Here's why it was great. You know, I'm not trying to write a thesis about it. I'm not trying to like get my Proust quotes off or anything. I just want to like be here, be engaged, and be excited for people who are doing great stuff in their career, and help other people find it. You know, that's so we've got this is the Crossroads episode. We've got a lot of people at the Crossroads here. So it's the 3 albums we did are Anywhere But Here by NYCK Caution, Portishus by Hus Kingpin, and Pharaoh Monch's new album. I want to get it right. I hate the title. A Magnificent Day for an Exorcism.
Not a fan.
I just hate the title. It's so cheeky. It's so needlessly cheeky.
Yeah. It kind of fits the album though. Like it's in a cheeky, kind of weird kind of way, a little goofy.
I was going to launch into this and just say, wrote, like, just drop some data points, some Pharoah Monch data points on us. What is your relationship with Monch's music? How deep are you with it? How did this album strike you? Success or no success kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll say starting with my relationship with Monch, obviously, like most rap fans, I'm obviously well versed with Organized Confusion. So, uh, Stress, that album, like
Right.
amazing, amazing. And Monch, obviously, a huge part of that reason being why. Outside of that, his solo work, like Internal Affairs, is definitely one that I really like. And I liked the PTSD album, which is I definitely was trying to re-listen to in preparation for this, because that is also I actually don't know his age on the top of my head, but he was well into his career. It's like 2014, so he was already an aging veteran at that point. So yeah, I would say like a moderate medium. I wouldn't say I've listened to every single, like analyzed every single verse of his, but he's one of the best for sure. And with this album, so I feel like Monch, the way he took this, what he was trying to do, I feel like he's at the age where all these that only really the elite rappers get to this stage, where I kind of dub it like the passion project phase. So they're older, established, respected, nothing else really to prove, in the sense that they don't need to, yeah, they don't need to answer to anybody but themselves and what they want to do creatively. So they're free to experiment without the weight of expectation. And I find, like, there's artists like Jay-Z. I find 444 was a really good example of that, where he kind of went in left field and got way more personal, and yeah, just made an album that kind of blew me away in terms of the framing he went for. I don't think it's his best, but I think it's like probably even potentially top 5, so definitely good. But then, like, I think of other people like Goody Mob. Like, I don't know if you guys checked out Survival Kit
Tried.
last year.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I actually don't know your thoughts on this because I'm not aware of it, but that's an example of where I just didn't really like it. I just feel like they went for like this kind of like southern rock infused kind of flavor and trappy, just more modern feeling, and it just sounded strange. Like, I was open minded, it just sounded strange. But so Monch, I find he's kind of in, like, I find him in the middle, because I think the decision to go in this like rap rock, very fiery political way, I think it worked. It worked really well, I think, for the most part. I think, like, particularly the rap rock fusion worked well when there's like a lot of heavy grooves, and the political commentary very fitting for today's day and age. So I thought it was really solid. His rapping has never fell off ever. So that goes without saying, flow is ridiculous, all that stuff.
Right.
But I don't think he fully sticks the landing. I think particularly, like, I'm trying to actually pull up the track list, but it was around the time after Fight, or really Scarecrow. It's like the last half of the album. I find it was a little more spotty than I would have liked. It's still good. Like, there, it's not like it didn't fall off a cliff, but there was some songs where I was like, it didn't need to be there, in my opinion. So that's like kind of what I feel in a nutshell.
There's a really good blueprint for this. I think you hit a lot of things that I definitely want to expand on with that. So, for anyone watching, listening to this, who isn't really Organized Confusion like certified, that is the album, right? That Stress, right? It was a game changer, right? And Keith, you remember the I Gave You Power Nas song, where he talks about the gun from the perspective of the gun?
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah,
Yes.
Monch beat him to that. Monch had that song before him, and it's better. So that's hard to say about Nas in like 96, right? I mean, that's
Right.
yeah, but Monch was like that. On Stress, he was just he was fantastic, but he is one of these guys, and we'll get to this with Caution as well. He's one of these guys who kind of doesn't like his reputation that much. He doesn't really love the like rap god thing, because he's not making rap god money, but he gets the rap god respect. So it's weird, right? And then people want you to keep making what they like. So this is an album that's born kind of from that. And I have more tidbits based on interviews that I've seen with him. What was your reaction to the album, to the Magnificent Day for an Exorcism?
So, I mean, one, I was shocked because I just did a wiki search of him. He was 48 years old. I did not. October 31st, 1972. I did not know that he was 48 years old. So I mean, that's kind of astounding. I mean, to me, that he's still
honestly
rapping.
It's depressing. It's depressing. I'm 8 years younger.
He's
That's
literally
depressing.
double my age.
That's depressing.
I'm 25. That is.
I am so much more disheveled for knowing that fact. Thank you very much.
It is what it is. I mean, he still true. I mean, he doesn't rap like I would imagine a 48-year-old would rap. You know, I mean, he still has that lyrical dexterity of someone like half of his age. And so getting to the album, I mean, I liked it. I think that I liked it. I've been saying for years that I'd like, you know, more live instrumentation in rap, or, you know, there's always something special about rap music that has live instrumentation. So I thought that gave it like a different type of pulse than we're usually accustomed to from a rap album in 2020/2021. So, but with that said, it was a cool album. Like I liked it, but I don't think I would go back to it.
It's an interesting listen. I mean, and my routine this week was, you know, I knew we had this on Wednesday. Every day I woke up and I listened to these albums. And I listened to them NYCK Caution, Hus Kingpin.
Yep. That's how
and I listened to NYCK first because I knew it would wake me up.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was going to wake me up. And I didn't hate it. I never dreaded pressing play. It's a fun album. And when it's an experiment. It's an experiment. And as a listener, you have an obligation to understand that, to set your standards, right? This is an experiment. NYCK did an interview on the Dad Bod Rap Pod that I recommend highly. He got real personal with it. And he said he walked out of Mad Max Fury Road like, I want to write. I need to make more shit. Like, he was really excited to create because of that art. And that you can feel that kind of connective tissue that he wanted to do something different, take chances. He didn't want to just report on his life. He wanted to create a story out of what's going on.
And I appreciate that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think he did a pretty good job on that. And I think lyrically was definitely one of the strongest points of the album, because like his particular kind of role in this contributions, I think that was always usually the strength, or at least always pretty good on the album. It's mainly kind of like a songwriting issue, or just like I don't know about you guys, but the way the album ended was just strange to me, because it ended with Amnesia, which was like, that was a gorgeous song. Like, it's very sentimental. It wasn't really like the rest of the album. And I was like, damn, Mosh, like, this is really beautiful. The production was gorgeous. Like, the percussion, the drumming was ridiculous. And then it ended like that. And I was like, oh, that's a perfect closer on my first listen. And then I'm like, wait, there's another song. And it was just like, that was definitely my least favorite too. But even if it wasn't, and it was like 666 level, which I like that song, I was like, I just didn't get the point of it. It kind of just felt a little disjointed towards the end.
K Diggy, the person who has the best quote on that is Madam Money. I love her YouTube reviews. And I sent the link in the thing, and during the review, she can't hide her face when she hates something or doesn't like it or doesn't get it. Her face is so great, and she said, Amnesia, and it's well named because it's like he forgot what the rest of the album sounded like. I was like, oh, that's mean, but it's fair. Like when Amnesia starts, you're like, what is it? What? Like, you just had 2 songs that had "kill" in the title, right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Kill him again. Kill him. And now we're like, fight. And now we're like, she woke me up. And I was like, baby. I was like, what is this? What is happening now? That's an experiment, right? He's experimenting. He's all over the place. K. Diggy, did you feel it gets disjointed? And if so, where did you feel it get disjointed?
I mean, I think it feels like a long listen to me. Like, I enjoyed some parts of it, but it just felt like near the end, like I was just like, okay, when is this going to end? Like, when are we? It just felt like a really long listen to me. I would say, let me get the track listing out to see. I think it was really, it kind of lost me probably around Racist.
Yeah,
which is
that's
track
a fair
8.
point.
That's like the exact point where it started to as well for me.
Yeah.
I really loved track number 4, 666 36 word stories. But then then I just like near by the end of Racist, I was like, okay, let's get this over with, man. Like, I get what you're trying to do.
I hear you. Ro, do you think this could have been an EP? I'm looking at the track listing right now. I would cut Racist. I would cut Amnesia. I cut one of the Kill songs. Pick your favorite Kill song, leave the rest. I cut Fight, to be honest. Fight is so generic to me.
I'm okay. So obviously I'm the youngest one here. I was assuming you guys would just like, it's Cypress Hill. I'm assuming that like I don't have the same connection with them. Yeah, I thought the song was okay, but it was generic. Yeah, it just felt like a fight protest-ish song, and I was like lyrically again, content-wise, I'm all for it. It was just not really like, I feel like, to go to what K. Diggy was saying there earlier, I felt it was just like long-winded. It was like, I was just like, you already kind of said what you said in the first half of the album, and I find like it could have just ended around there. Like, to answer your other question about the EP, I still think it could have been an album. Like, I really like the first 6 songs, like either like it or really like it. Fight was unnecessary. Racist was kind of unnecessary. Oxygen was pretty cool. I didn't really like Kill 'Em All Again, so that could have been gone. And I actually like Amnesia. Like, I actually like it. And I was like, if it is gonna like completely not fit the album, at least just be the ending. So it's kind of like, you could almost see it like it's like kind of this like tumultuous torment of an album. And then you kind of just get this like beautiful ending. It's like kind of just ends it on a note, even though it's not really, doesn't really make sense theoretically. But then kill, I want that off. So like maybe cut like 4 or 5 songs would have been way tighter. I think it would have been like much stronger. That's a good point. You cut this thing down to 8 or 9 songs, and because my favorite song on this is Goat's Head. I think Goat's Head is great. That's a great song.
I think, first of all, I wasn't really a big fan of th1rt3en's contribution to the production on this, to the sound, because you can catch it on songs like Magician. It kind of just sounds like everyone's playing everything really loudly, All right, guys, let's go. And, and that's kind of what, it said, like, it doesn't sound like anything it released now, but it does sound like something released in 07,
Yeah, it's not a bad point.
New Danger, Post Limp Bizkit rap rock
Damn, New
stuff, right?
Danger. I didn't even think of that. That is pretty
Yeah,
similar.
yeah. So it has that feel to some of the songs that it needs to shake, but there's high points, man. Amnesia is really good. It's really well written. If it wasn't attached to this, I think everybody would really enjoy it
Yeah.
a lot more.
Yeah.
But even if we cut out the filler and we get it to like 9 songs and you get a surprise Amnesia at the end,
So
that's a pretty good album.
Yeah.
I have a question. So he said he was inspired by Mad Max Fury. Didn't that come out? That came out like 3 years ago, right, or something?
He's been working on this for a bit, I think.
Yeah, I think at least 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 years.
So
right.
The other thing is, and that's how Monch is, right? He doesn't have a lot of albums. He releases albums, and they're good. They're good. They're interesting. Desire is really interesting. PTSD is really interesting. That's what he does, and he's a little underrated. I talked to Sharif about that, and he really enjoys this album too.
Yeah. So I mean, I just Googled it. It said that Mad Max Fury came out in 2015. So he's been working. I don't know if he's released anything since 2015, but he's been working on it for 5 years.
He's been working on it. I mean, one of the things he said on Dad Bod Rap Pod that I thought was fascinating. He said he was in an elevator with Nas and Yassine Bey and just they were at some show they were doing all together, and he was like frustrated. He had just dropped Desire, and he was like, "People aren't getting it. People don't understand." And Nas said, "Hey, these albums are like children. Like, you just got to watch them grow." And he said he never forgot that as advice, and that is clearly present in this album, right? He's taking chances, and he's like, you can hate it now, but a year from now, 2 years from now, you might be bumping this. This might survive on a different level. So, who knows? But I can't be mad at it because we can't keep yelling at artists for making the same album and then yelling at artists for taking chances.
I feel like if the chance, I feel like with experimentation, it just like it needs to feel authentic, and this 100% felt authentic. This felt like Monch really felt these things that he was saying in the lyrics, and the sound is like, I mean, it's different from him, but his performance, it didn't surprise me. It was impressive, but it didn't really surprise me. It was like he's done like very theatrical kind of like deliveries for his whole career. So I was like, I think it fit. Thinking of your point you made earlier about like the production contributions of the 13. So Daru Jones and what's his name? Machado? Marcus Machado? Is that it? Anyways, Marcus Machado. Yeah. I think like there's times in the album where you can see the musicianship because these guys are seasoned, like veteran pros. And when those hit, like they really hit. Like I think Amnesia, there's so much things in just the quality of the drumming. There's other points where the guitar is just super, super well utilized. But I just think it's lacking I feel like it's lacking a personality at times. It's like a direction. It's just really well played music, and at times that works, and other times I'm like, this is a little drab or just okay. There's nothing really unique about this, and I feel like that's kind of where their contributions fell flat at times.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the thing. When you work on an album for 5 years, the longer that you're creating songs, like the more editing that's required to keep the cohesion. Because I'm sure some of these songs were recorded, Max Fury came out 2015. So I'm sure he saw the movie, went and started recording in 2015. Then he did some songs in 2016, maybe 17, 18, 19. That's a lot of time that passes for like a musical artist. So if you've been working on an album for 5 years, that requires more editing, requires more hard decisions. in order to keep the music created in each of those years cohesive.
Right. Well, and I mean, you're right. I think you're very right that if there's a failure in this album, it's in the editing, right? It's not in the culmination of the stuff. It's deciding what stays and goes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay, right? I think it got like a 5.9 or a 5.5 on Pitchfork.
Yeah, that's too low for me by a lot.
They were not into it, and I certainly don't agree with that. But it is, he took a swing. If Monch were here and he were asking my advice, I would say you have a better singing voice than you have any right to have.
Oh my God, yeah, he does.
It doesn't make sense. You're able to somehow roar and then sing. I hate you. But he does it and he's really good at it. He should capitalize on that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the part that genuinely surprised me, because I knew the concept or how it was going to be with 13 and all that. So I wasn't that surprised, but I was really surprised by the catchiness. When this did get catchy, it was fucking catchy. The hooks, yeah, Monch was destroying these hooks. Like track 2, I don't remember how it went in my head, but that one I noted down was incredible. Amnesia, as I mentioned earlier, like he was soaring on these hooks. These aren't like because I find like a lot of times in rap, a lot with the melodic rappers or people who try to sing, like I have no problems when they sing off key. It's kind of relatable. I like it, honestly. Yep. But he actually is singing legitimately good. Mm-hmm. Like a real soulful singing. I was like, damn, man. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Hard.
No, he's got to figure out how to utilize that. I think some people probably disconnected from the content in the sense that he's doing he's trying to use horror imagery to address issues of today, right? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But it was, and that may be new to him, but it's not new to what other people are doing, right? Like there are other people out there who are like bending their stuff towards that. And doing kind of better.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is there was like one of the songs, there was like a line that kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I didn't really have any context for it. It was about
racist. It's in racist.
Yeah. I think you know what I mean. But I didn't have any context of it because I think the way he raps it's very subtle. Like you have to really like lean in and listen. But the instrumentation on the album was like so overpowering that I wasn't able to really lean in and listen. So that way, like I wasn't able to understand what he was like, the vision that he had for the album because of, you know, how overpowering the instrumentation was.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's weird, and there's like that, which I don't know, makes me think of the NYCK Caution because to kind of segue a bit, the NYCK Caution has a song like Amnesia that I don't think belongs on it. That's smack dab in the middle of it. And it was just weird to have both albums doing that. How familiar are you with NYCK Caution, K Diggy? What is it?
I've never heard of them.
No.
Before I listen, I've never heard of any of these artists before I listened to them.
Okay, he's in the Pro Era crew, Joey Badass's crew.
Yep.
Joey Badass's crew is thick with people who like everybody picks to be the next big guy, like CJ Fly, Chuck Strangers. It's just, I mean, Capital Steez was amazing when he was alive. Yeah. But when those guys are all really talented, but there's a reputation they have as just having not gotten to where they need to get to, right?
Right.
Having kind of been right on the bridge to being great, but not stepping over. And NYCK Caution, he released an album called Nick at Night. Maybe he thinks it's a mixtape. It's hard to tell what everybody thinks it is. Because I've heard people say this is his debut. I don't know. Nick at Night was a real album. It was 2017, and it was dope. It was quite good. And I began to think of NYCK Caution as the most complete, not Joey Badass element on Pro Era. But he had an album in 2019. It was called Low Y. That really wasn't my thing at all. And his stock has been up and down in the public eye. And Anywhere But Here, his new album, is to me, it's as bold as Pharoah Monch's album in a different way. Monch's album was bold because it was taking real life and pulling it through a horoscope, right? And trying to keep it real at the same time. Anywhere But Here, to me, it's bold because he stares down his audience and he talks to them, and it's not always nice. I have lyrical examples, but how did you feel about the album, Rohan?
Yeah, so when you invited me to talk and you're telling me about the albums, first, like, I read it. I don't know what the order of it is, but I read Huss, I read Monch, and I was like, that's sick. I have so much things to say. I've been bumping these like nonstop when we were talking. This album I definitely wasn't listening to until obviously we were going to do this. I personally don't agree with the idea. Like, I know I agree with the idea, the framing about people always pick the pro era artist to be like the unsung hero, the next one to pop, and I agree with that. But I would give that honor more to like a CJ Fly in particular, but also Kirk Knight. He had a
Kirk Knight
project a really long time. Like, I think it was 3-4 years ago. The cover was red. It's escaping me, but it was a pretty solid. Like, I like the production, but CJ Fly's album last year was actually quite good. I think it was called Rude Boy. If not, that was a song. It was like a lot about his Jamaican heritage, and
I think it was Rude Boy.
Static. I think Static produced the whole project. I think, if not like a vast majority of it, and it was great. I think it was, or like good. I think it was pretty good. NYCK Caution, I've listened to his projects, but not really too much because I've not found anything special with him, like nothing incredibly intangible, that intangible it factor. And so with this album, I just feel like it solidified that for me because he's one of those guys. It's very similar to Dreamville in that way. There's a lot of people, maybe to a lesser extent, because I do like Boz, but people like Boz that fundamentally on paper, there's nothing wrong. And I have nothing wrong. There's nothing bad about this album, but there's nothing differentiating him from his contemporaries in Pro Era, but just outside of that group, because I find like I can hear better versions of the different types of styles he incorporates on this album. I can hear better versions by other artists. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing, because it didn't really change my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, Diggy, how did you feel? Were you in a similar boat?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of Joey Badass, but I bought his debut album, and I've heard some of his mixtape stuff. So I'm familiar with like the Pro Era sound, I guess you could say. Like, they have their own musical aesthetic. So I really dug their musical aesthetic. And I mean, the song Anywhere But Here, actually the title track, was actually the first song that came out this year that I actually played a couple times. I mean, I really liked that song. But other than that, like, I mean, you're right. Like, you can't, there's nothing, he doesn't have like a distinguishing feature about him that makes him stand out to me. He is a great, I shouldn't say he's a great, he's a very good rapper.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's something missing that it's like, you know, if you're marketing yourself, what's the thing that distinguishes you from other rappers? What can I, like you and I say, what can I only get from you that I can't get from another rapper? And I can't point my finger, I can't put my thumb on what it is that I can only get from him.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I think you actually, the way you described it too, it reminds me a lot of, so like I started the podcast I currently host in August of last year, but it was about music, and it was 90% of the episodes were rap music, but I was also trying to cover politics and sports. I did one episode on something related to the NFL, and then a couple political episodes. And I like those things, but I had the same problem that I quickly realized, is that people don't have anything that they go to me for specifically. It's just, oh, he talks about all these things, and therefore you're a master of none. And that's kind of the master of none ideas is exactly what I thought of. I even wrote it down. It's like, I can get some of this stuff is very introspective and like relatable kind of stuff, like not really like Drake, where it's like so in the kind of emotional realm, but it's very relatable, introspective, like a J. Cole. But J. Cole, I think, does it much better with more talent. And then there's like energetic bangers. I think the track is like What You Want, and especially Bad Guy with Denzel. And an artist like Denzel Curry is a perfect example that I just think he does it so much more entertaining. And I think that's kind of just where it just, I feel bad because I see the talent, but it's none of it's exceptional. So it kind of makes me not really feel a reason to go back to this.
I got more interested the more I listened to it. I'm really interested in these kind of albums. He's in a really interesting place in his career. By the way, I don't disagree with anything anybody's saying. I was on Genius today looking up the lyrics on this album. You remember, Geek, where I say like it's important to have people that you can read? Like,
absolutely.
That rapper that's dope. He's not one of those guys. Like if you read, they're very elementary couplets, right? It's like there's the word choice is just not there. Like it's really, it's not stunning, right? But I was really interested just in the fact that he kind of addresses your point, Rohan.
That's true.
Like Dirt on Your Name is my favorite song on the thing.
That was actually a good song. I like that one.
And he starts it by saying what you see in him that you don't see in me. Just the frustration directed at the audience right off the bat. He says, would you rather be an unknown or somebody that everybody knows for just being okay? Okay. Clean your image. Then there's dirt on your name. It don't ever wash away. It don't ever wash away. I mean, there's a lot of these, man. What you want? We need this and we need that. We need a hit. We need the old vibe that you bring back. We need you to be a slave to the music that you make. We need you to be the voice that's paving the way. What we don't need is you to be different than the guy that was 17, signed, and recorded School High. And I'm just fascinated by like just looking your audience in the face and being like, what is this? Why are we stuck in this loop, right? And this is kind of what happened with the pro era people. This might be a little different than the Dreamville people, because the Dreamville people got a chance to set their sound to themselves, right? And set the rules of their sound. But when Joey Badass dropped 1999, it was a rocket ship. I was there, I was covering mixtapes. I wrote the review on Freemusicempire. It took everything by storm, right? It was insane. And if you go to datpiff.com, it's one of the highest downloaded mixtapes they ever had.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted them to be exactly like that forever. Yeah. People got into that. Were like, the kids love our sound. The kids respect us. So we want them to do this, right? And it trapped them because they were young. They wanted to do different things.
And
but they just
and what I would say is, like, if you look at other like rap labels, like I look at, like, I think the gold standard for like rap labels right now is probably Top Dog Entertainment. They're like the gold standard where if they release something, it's going to be like a hit or it's going to be critically acclaimed. And I think like the origins of that start from, you have to like, you start with like a tree, or you start with like the leader. And for Top Dog, it was Kendrick Lamar. And then all of the other artists are branches from that tree, or they play off of their top dog's, no pun intended, energy. And so like they're all from the same tree, but there's differentiations because, you know, they're different branches from the same tree. And I think with, you know, with the pro era, and I mean, I haven't heard all of the rappers, but I've heard Joey Badass and NYCK Caution. They're really like, you can tell they're from the same tree, but their sound doesn't lead to a lot of differentiation between them.
Which is why I think Rude Boy stood out, right? And people really took to it because it was such a different sound. And shout out to CJ Fly, really does a really good job differentiating that. I think, to your point, Keith, I think Capital Steez living longer would have helped with that. I think he was a very different individual, and it would have helped a lot. But
who was Capital Steez?
He was a member of their crew, and he committed suicide.
Okay.
Yeah, very young. I think he might have been 18, if not 17, when Joey released 1999. And he had like a couple, like he had his own mixtape too, that was pretty good, but he had a couple like very, very good renowned features on that 1999 album that like got him so much acclaim. Yeah, real sad for sure. And I was actually like, I think I'm literally 2 months younger than Joey Badass. So I was a child when that album came out, or that mixtape. And I remember all of my school, like all of a sudden people who didn't even care about rap were all like, oh yeah, I listen to Nas now. Like he literally was boom bap revival for my generation. So that album was crazy. And I think you're right, Dan, that it is different than Dreamville because Cole's obviously the biggest name, but Cole didn't necessarily come, like people didn't think of a Cole sound when they thought of Cole. They just thought of his songs and him as a person. But with Joey, it was like the sound and the lyrical quality, but it was the sound. That was a huge selling point. So it was like instant pigeonhole. And and I find, with Steez, it would have been different because the fact that TDE, Kendrick's the dog, but Schoolboy's like from the get-go was very successful too, and his sound is vastly different. Absol, all of them around 2012 had very good received projects that were very popular commercially, and then J-Rock was the OG from there, so he already had like a following from like his relationships with Lil Wayne even. So that's a good point. The Pro Era was kind of destined to be pigeonholed right from the get-go, which is unfortunate.
J-Rock might have like as close to a perfect 10 discography as you can get. Like his discography is fantastic.
90059 is amazing. And I heard people, then it came up, people were disappointed. I was like, it's one of those where I think I was listening to a different album. I was like, production, very good. His lyricism was very good. He matured, he got personal. I was like, I don't know. That was a great
I feel like there's been a few J-Rock albums like that where I listened to them. I was disappointed. I walked away from it. I came back in a month or two, and I was like, "This is unbelievable." Because he's very subtle with what he does. Even his last album, where he was doing trap stuff and bouncier stuff. At first, I was like, "Nah," and then I was listening. I was like, "Holy shit, man, this is good," and it was one of my favorites. But yeah, this doesn't. seem like an album that'll grow anything. Anywhere But Here is pretty immediate. There isn't a lot of beneath the surface, but today I was listening to it. I was like, man, I'd love to talk to him about this. I just think there's so much weird stuff here. The end of session 47, he's been with my girl. She wants something more. No, she deserves everything that she wants, but I just struggle to even the score. All the feelings I try to ignore always come knock at the door. What the fuck am I still doing this for? End of the song. That is the end of the song. And it's like, and I was just like, man, that is so insane. Like, I could never do that. You know, to just be like, I should probably be better. She's great, but I'm not great. And you know what? Who the fuck are you? And that's it. Shut it off. Like, man, you're in a weird place. Like, but I love it. I just think that's a real hard thing to do. It's really hard when artists are good but not great, right? And they know it. Their audience knows it, right? Like he knows Denzel Curry is better at that sound than he is.
Yeah.
Bad Guy is my least favorite song on the album because of that. Like, it doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense. The skit before it doesn't make sense. But he knows he's around dope artists with real followings. He knows he has an audience that is okay with him. And that's hard. That's hard. It's being in a relationship with someone who would upgrade if they could.
Damn. Yeah, that's the way you put that. That's true. It really, I mean, yeah, props to him for kind of wearing his insecurity on his sleeve. It's definitely risky musically, but it's just, I bet it was pretty difficult to do on a personal level. So I really hear that. It reminds me a lot of like sports too. Like I'm thinking of like I don't know, are you guys NFL football fans at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it reminds me of like a Kirk Cousins. Like I think of Kirk Cousins. I almost feel like I know he knows that he's not elite, but he's definitely pretty good. And I find like the insecurity, you can just almost feel it sometimes when they play in big moments. And it's a shitty place because if you even, it's almost sometimes better to be shitty because then at least people no one cares that you're not good because they know you're not good. Whereas they're like, oh, NYCK Caution, you're like pretty good. You should be better. No one says that about like the worst QB in the league. So
it's tough. And I think go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you're going to be like mediocre to good, but not like great, you have to have like a unique sound. As I said, like you have to figure out what your appeal is and really lean into that. And I don't think he hasn't found that yet. So,
and I feel like he was close. He has the cover art. The cover art's very good. He has the title track. The title track is good, right? He just needed less posturing stuff. There's some posturing stuff in here that doesn't make sense. That doesn't, like, there's, what are the songs? I'm looking at, I want to look at the track list. But, like, there's songs on here that are, where he kind of goes back to the club, you know? And pops bottles and brags about stuff. And I was like, man, I want you to just lock in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like make an album that's incredibly insecure and like just lean into that the whole time. Make it like a character portrait of yourself. Like that's interesting. That's definitely
Larry David. Go full Larry David with that, right? It just ceaseless, you know? And cut all the rest of it out. He's almost gets there, and I liked how he discussed the loss of his father in this. He just needed to let go of and shed a lot of the posturing, I guess is what I would call it. I want to be nicer, but that's what it is. And that brings me to the third album. I think is really interesting to compare with Anywhere But Here because Portishus. I think I said this in the breakdown that I sent off. Huss Kingpin is like a Ronin. He's like a masterless samurai who wanders the rap landscape doing whatever the hell he wants to. And I have a very strange relationship with Huss. So I don't always listen to him, but I binge him sometimes. I am in a Huss binge phase right now where I can't get enough Huss. Like he's fascinating. And it started in the lead up because I follow Huss Kingpin on Twitter, as everybody should. And he was posting these snippets, and I was just like, holy shit. And I started jumping into the 2020 stuff. He's got this album called Threesome, which has like Big Daddy Kane, Madonna, and Naomi Campbell like having sex on the cover or something. Having like foreplay at least. Anyway, shout out to foreplay. Everybody out there having foreplay. Anyway, but yes, so Huss is great, and he's great because he doesn't care. He doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what I think. He does whatever he wants. He goes in these really interesting artistic directions, and he never worries about it. And Portishus is a perfect examination of that.
Yeah.
Of him as just a madman, doing things that no one does. I'm very impressed with this album. What were your takeaways, Mr. K. Biggie?
I think what's special, not special. I think what makes him solid to me is that, like, he knows what he wants to do. Like, he has that vision. So I would say, like, lyrically, like, Pharoah Monch and Nick Cannon. Oh, I said Nick Caution.
You almost said Nick Cannon.
I almost said Nick Cannon. Yeah.
Everybody take a drink.
Nick Caution. I thought, like, lyrically they were better, but I thought Huss Kingpin, he had the vision for what he wanted his album to sound like, and he had an idea of the vibe and the mood that he was trying to create, and he stuck to it. And so for that reason, that made his body of work stronger than the other two in my eyes, even though it wasn't, like, technically better lyrically, I should say.
Mm-hmm. I've got very interesting thoughts about the lyricism on this album. Ro, how did you come down on this? How has it grown with you? Have you listened to this a lot?
This album, out of all of them, is by far the one I've listened to the most. My relationship with Huss is I've always appreciated him, but I've listened to a few projects of his and always came away with it liking it, but not the same with Nick Caution, where I'm like, I can get better versions of this other places. I just thought they were always good, but there's nothing special about the projects other than maybe Smooth Tape. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Yep. That one, start of 2020, that was a really dope project. But this one was something different, and I was instantly intrigued by the Portishead. I love Portishead, one of my favorites ever. So definitely interested in how he was going to weave in that inspiration. And when I played this like 3 times in a row, and I don't usually do that, but I played the album front to back like 3 times in a row. I was just so intrigued. And I find he shows that there's an avenue for growth for rappers that doesn't always mean you need to change lyrically at all, because this is pretty consistent with what he's done in the past, at least when it comes to content. But the sound is special. I think the sound is really cool, making it kind of like feel like this like dark room, dusty jazz cafe, really nice like twinkly keys, like all these like nice breathy vocal samples a la a Beth Gibbons. Like, yep. I love like just the musical sound palette. It's actually incredible. I really, really like the beats here. and it just fit him perfectly, and it showed like, yeah, okay, I did something new. There's something fresh about this album, but he's still talking his talk. It's still street rap, but he does street rap well. I think he's, out of all these projects, I actually like this one the most lyrically, even though Monches is more like technically sound. I think
Right.
he just has so many. He's a guy who makes good word choices, turns of phrases, and just has like a poetic vibe to his lyrics that I really enjoy. And I think it just came off perfectly over these like silky smooth, like like he's like a mob boss kind of vibe. It's like just very classy, tasteful feeling. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
And I'm going to go a step further here. I'm going to say, in my mind right now, because I am this guy, Portishus is the album to beat. Portishus to me is the best album of 2021.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you are coming out with an album and you want it to be the best, you got to beat Portishus. And I can make the case here. The production, love the Smoky Jazz Cafe image because it really fits what I want to talk about here, which is there is this beautiful dark romance to his lyrics. And it's always been like that. But Portishead, he seizes on Portishead because it fits and accentuates that the best, right? So, and I think the most important song on it that differentiates it from anything you can find in New York, right? She spoke to me in body language, no English. We keep it ancient. I can hear your voice slipping away. Shifty. I can lust over your trust. Taught me how to fly magic clouds. I'm just blowing off wings, red carpet in the sky, making my rounds. Barriers. That's from Barriers.
Yep.
There's some very romantic stuff in here. There's some very seductive poetry going on in here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's evil. He's also evil, and he's killing people, and he's destroying. So the cool thing about this is the mixture by the end of it. This guy's like Dracula by the end of it.
That's actually true. I didn't think of it like that because I was definitely wanting to talk about how this album ends because it does not sound. It is a tale of two halves, quite literally. And the way you had it, like the way you said it there was perfect because it's the sound that accentuated that. Because I also had to do kind of like a double take. I'm like, is he always this nice on the mic? Like, is he always this like seductive and just like so slick? But I'm like, he is. It's just the sound palette, and also I think the mixing is just, the vocals sound so unique. They're like, even the guests too, it's like it cuts. It's like so like breathy. I don't know if he's like so close to the mic or something. Like I don't know what it is, but it makes all of this feel like someone's like whispering sweet nothings in your ear or something, and then they kill you at the end of the album. Like, because that is why it gets more like violent at the end, more aggressively, and I guess that's a good way of looking at it.
He's like, so, and the reason I think this is lyrically brilliant, right, is because lyricism isn't really all about technicality. It's about where you put the camera, right? Like you're framing your imagery, and he's always surprising me.
Right.
He's always surprising me. And the reason that I fall out of love with Huss is that his voice never changes.
Right.
He never sounds concerned or worried about anything. So there always comes a point where I'm like, this is kind of too much of the same deal.
Yeah.
But in this, he turns it into a strength, right?
Yeah.
And two examples lyrically. Who Made You Look, first song. I wrote this nocturnal smoke high in my sleep. That's just a crazy, insane, awesome thing to say. But there's a song called Heroes. And I tell you, this is with two of the hottest people right now on the East Coast, right? This is Willie the Kid, who's on a crazy run.
I fucking love Willie the Kid.
Ransom, who is totally rejuvenated with Nick Craven, and releasing amazing stuff. Those guys torch this song. Huss comes on, and he says, "Your favorite rapper wears a shirt in the pool, no bra." And I was like, what? What? Like he's just always in a different direction, and you can never quite pin him down. He's disgusting. He's beautiful, right? Like he's Meet the Poet. If I ruled the kingdom, I'd flutter with petals of rose in tornadoes. I caught you hanging off the cliff of your heart. I was hypnotized by your highness. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
You mentioned Cool Keith too. Mentioned Cool Keith too on the disgusting tip. Like, first of all, I'm really happy that Cool Keith is getting the shine, like the spotlight randomly. Like on Mount Marcy, you got the feature. And yeah, he has so much influence when it comes to like that absurdist, uber sexual, like comical, like stream of consciousness stuff. People have taken bits and pieces from his style. So that's sick that I really appreciated Huss doing that. And you could see it too. He's obviously not nearly as gross about it, but he definitely takes from it. And also one thing about the women, the seductive nature, you know, the track Ageless, it has rock on that.
Yes.
That song, I don't know if you guys will agree with me here. It felt like, gave me a very strong early 2000s vibe of like a song that like Scott Storch would produce. Like just the keys. Great. It was like that classic, like very melodic production in like the traditional like keys way that like a early mid 2000s 50 Cent like a Scott Storch produced thing would have, because damn, that song was so smooth. It was so smooth, and the beat was just like such a classic head nod, really simplistic, just the snare, but perfect, just like executed perfect. It's one of my favorite songs.
Absolutely.
And at first, I was very grumpy old man about him pulling the evils and using it for the struggling. But when I listened to it again, the way he freaked the beginning of it, where he kind of mixes it and brings it back a little bit, and it's like dun 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 dun, and then goes in. And he's, stuck in my own passage. I started battling fears I never had, switching faces each day. Which mask? Huss. That's another thing that you'll love about Huss, K. Diggy. This is a man who understands Jay-Z better than anybody. Back years and years ago, him and Smooth, who they have one of the best relationships in New York rap, they did like a Reasonable Doubt tribute mixtape that was scarily good. Uncomfortably good. Like, these guys really understand what made Jay special at that time. I always said that Jay back then was one of the only rappers with emotions.
Huh.
That's an interesting
What do you
point.
mean?
I mean,
in what way?
So the 90s, and I love 90s rap. I'm old. I'm here with you old people. But 90s rap had a lot of Superman lyrics, right? A lot of people running through walls of enemies, right? Just invincible and never worrying about it. And I call that the Rambo plot problem. Of like, I watch a Rambo movie and I'm not worried about it. There's no tension.
Right. There's no stakes.
Like, go ahead, put the slugs on him, dude. You're out of here in a minute. Like, don't worry about it. So that's the problem with listening to those guys. You're like, yeah, you're telling me a story and I'm pretty sure you're winning at the end. Jay was able to really get into emotions and switching. When he's like, I never smoke weed. All right, I'm smoking now. Well, don't judge me. And he was able to go back and forth emotionally through the song and these characters in ways other people were uncomfortable doing. Huss does that all through this.
Yeah, Huss does do that.
And he does it on tracks where big, important, tough guys are there. And he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
I think your point about sorry, go. No, I think your point about Jay, I haven't thought about it like that, but I think that's really accurate because I find so I don't know if I agree, like I don't know, maybe it's just a word choice. I don't know if I agree with your original comment about like didn't show emotion, or I don't know exactly how you put it. But what I would say is that I feel like I'm like an Infamous, like Mobb Deep Infamous. I feel like that is very emotional, but it's like they just tell you stories that make the listener go like, holy shit. Like the Cradle to the Grave, that skit, that shit sad. That's so sad. I genuinely like get goosebumps. I'm like, that's such a sad thing to even think about. But they don't tell you they're sad. They don't explain that and all. It's just not their framing of it. Jay, I feel like he's like, and I feel like with those rappers like Mobb Deep in them, they're not trying to talk to you like they're talking to you as if you are part of that life. And they're just telling you it, and then you just react to it, obviously, because you're not part of it how you would. Jay, I feel like, is part of a similar life, but he's talking in a way where he's actually trying to talk to people that aren't part of that life. He's like explaining a little more. I don't find he shows too much emotion as much, but he kind of talks about the thought process, the anxiety, the guilt, like regrets, obviously, is an obvious example where you kind of hear his thought process going on. Whereas Mobb Deep wouldn't try to get into that because they're not concerned with that. And that's just not their focus. But Jay was like, he was like talking to like his business. So it's like he's talking to his, like his business associate or his mother about what he does every day to make money and make ends meet. And that's still sad. And there's still a lot of like tension and drama, but he's actually trying to talk to you in a little more of a less superhero way, because that's not how you would tell that to your mother.
I mean, that's what I loved about Jay, is that he's able to go macro and micro very quickly and very easily. Like he's able to give you the feeling of what it's like to be inside of that emotion. But then like the very next line, he's able to step outside of it and explain the emotion to you in like an objective way. Like you listen to The Evils, like the second verse where he's talking about the relationship that he had, with his childhood friend and how that evolved. Like, there's only Jay-Z that, and kind of going back to NYCK Caution, that is something that you can only get from Jay-Z. That the second verse of The Evils, no one else on the planet is going to be able to break things down the way that Jay did.
And I want to piggyback Ro on the Mobb Deep stuff, because I actually bought Prodigy's autobiography.
Oh wow!
And he wrote it. He's too stubborn to let anyone really do it otherwise. So the wild part is it's written just like he talks in interviews, and he never feels connected to his own emotions. He'll be like, my dad told me about the birds and the bees. He dropped the gun in my lap and said, let's go. And we robbed a jewelry store. It was wild. What? Like, a normal person telling you that story would have so much more to like what they went through emotionally. He never feels connected to his own emotions. It's sad, but you are the one deciding that it's sad.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So Huss knows how to give you the emotions he wants you to have. And unlike the difference between Anywhere but Here, obviously craftsmanship, word choice, there's no rose petals in a tornado in Anywhere But Here, right? It's we're on a different level. But there's the amount of control, fearless control that he has, that he exerts over this project is, I mean, he's the captain of this ship.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to ask you, I don't know, you wanted to go, Katie?
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I agree with you. I think the vision, he had a vision for how he wanted the album to sound, and he stuck to that vision.
Right. Yeah. And the thing I wanted to talk about real quick is this album's, I think, exactly an hour, 60 minutes long. Do you guys think, and I don't know what, I saw it in a previous episode that you guys did. And I think, Dan, you mentioned that, like, if it's over an hour, it better be saying something. It better be saying some shit. And I pretty much feel the exact same. I'm like, my perfect, obviously stupid thing to say, it's an album. Like, I've not made the album yet, but if a perfect album is like 13 to like 15 songs in like 40 to 45 minutes, that's my sweet spot. I love that. Just like around 3 minutes, maybe even shorter tracks. But anyways, that notwithstanding, do you guys think it was actually, it was worth it? Like, it would justify that length, or could it have been trimmed?
No, I mean, for me, I think that he was trying to create a mood, a vibe. So like there's some albums like you listen to in the car or something, or there's some albums like you just sit and, like, let's say like a random Thursday night, like you don't have anything to do, you're just gonna sit and chill, maybe sip a little something and then listen to the album. I think he knew like exactly the context and setting that he wanted to hear, that he wanted people to listen to his album in. So I don't think it's too long, because as I said, I think he had a vision for what he wanted the album to sound like, and he had a vision of the context that people would listen to that album in.
Yeah, no, it's an important question, right? Because this is over an hour, and it isn't necessarily like a To Pimp a Butterfly kind of giant.
Yeah,
message.
it's not conceptual in that same way.
No.
But one of the things my sister said was really interesting. I was talking to her about people falling off because they kind of do the same thing over and over again. And she said, people wrote sonnets for hundreds of years. Everybody kept fucking with it, because if you're great at it, they'll keep wanting it. If you're great at it. And so I always try and keep that in mind. And I think there's just too much he's great at here. In terms of the sequencing, I still can't believe, every time I listen to it, I can't believe that it ends on the Snotty Jail freestyle. What an incredible way to end it. Just this dude from jail freestyling over the phone, Huss listening to it, like, to just be like, that's it, you know? That's the last voice on this album. That's incredible, dude. He just
and that's the confidence that he has, where he'd be able to end it like that. Because even when I heard that, like, the last song, I was like, oh, this is the end. Like,
right.
The last voice we're gonna hear is of someone, rapping from jail. Okay. Like, I was kind of shocked, but then, like, I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Take some balls.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, and so the track sequencing is beautiful. It's brilliant. Short songs, long songs, posse cuts, mean disses to Crime Apple, the Graham tape. He's all over it. But what I also love about this album, he brings people on who are known for their giant gruff voices. Vinny Paz.
Oh yeah.
Breeze Bruin. Like, these are people with big voices who deliver. Big Twins. Big Twins also.
Big Twins was maybe my favorite feature here. God, that was just mean.
Incredible.
Feature.
It was an incredible feature. And what he does time after time, if you listen to these cuts, he doesn't come on and do what they did. he goes the exact opposite way.
Yeah. I feel that. I feel like he really held his own against. Yeah, there's so many heavyweights here. Chasing Ghosts is one of my favorite songs, and it's not because of just Breeze Bruin, although he was amazing. Huss kills it too.
Yep.
I think the features overall were I think either good or amazing.
Right.
The only kind of exception I have was I'm not really remembering which feature. Like I just know kind of the songs. I agree in general that I think the length was justified because he's just doing too many things that are good here. And you actually gave me a unique, like a different, perspective on how it was sequenced. Cause I was a little more confused going into this. It was like, I just didn't really understand why it finished the way it did, but you kind of did give a little narration to what that could be. So I think that already changes my mind about that quite a bit. But I will say the last couple 2-3 songs were definitely the weakest. I like the last song, Snotty Jail, though, but Sunkissed, Intruder, Shooter's Harmony, those were just okay. Like they were pretty good, but I just found one or two of those could have just been out, and you could have just ended it like with Shooter's Harmony, and I would have been like, damn, great fucking album. End it with Snotty Jail after that. But still, features did, like, I was a little disappointed because I'm usually averse to too many features, but I think they all did their thing, and I have like really no real complaints. Maybe trim a song or two, but just very, very surprised how much I like this.
Masterfully selected. Rain, Black Widow. Black Widow kills it with her verse on Belly. It's awesome.
Belly's beat is like something else. Like I actually listened to this album on my headphones that I'm wearing now. Pretty good headphones, Audio Technicas, they're solid.
Right.
But then I listened to it on my Pioneer, like my decently nice speaker setup, and I didn't notice how amazing this production was until I like, especially Belly. Like there's this like synth that kind of just like goes in and out that is like so psychedelic. Like you really should listen to it on a good setup so you can hear the space and the sound stage. Like it's very well mixed, and the detail is just phenomenal. There's so many like amazing beats here. Beth Gibbons, Belly, Struggling, Chasing Ghosts, Barriers. I'm saying like all the album, but like Grand Tape, like there's so many. I definitely did prefer the first half, like just in general, but that's just because it's more my style. I did still appreciate the second half, although it wasn't as my, like, exactly my preference, but still not one of those where it fell off. It definitely was worth it for the whole time.
No, I'm with you. The first half to me is what solidifies it as the album so far because it's so unique. I kept thinking about the Griselda team. I kept thinking about them, and I kept thinking, man, like you'd never hear this out of Benny. You'd never hear this out of Conway. Like you would never hear these, like, there was Scorsese, RIP. One of the last things he said, which really stuck in my head. He was great for a hot fire Twitter take. Philly rapper. And he said, Stove God Cooks, his hooks, his ability to just create melody in these choruses and bridges is what separates him from the New York circle jerk. And I was like, wow, the New York circle jerk. And I kept thinking about it. I kept like, it feels like, a pretty standard New York goon rapper puts on a fancy scarf and is like, you see, I got this fancy scarf. This is my art, and they're really just making the same music they were before. They just have a fancy scarf. So there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of like, I'm selling my vinyl for a ton of money. And what is it? Al Divino. Did you hear about Al Divino's thing?
It was like $237 for a vinyl, I think.
And it's called, yes, it's being sold for $237. But I think the album is called 237, but in Roman digits.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That is what Scorsese would describe as the New York circle jerk, right? Of like the fanciness for no reason kind of situation. And Huss knows exactly what he wants to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is dialed in. He gets as mean as you could want him to be, but he also gets heartbroken and romantic. It's a ride along, and you're like Ethan Hawke in Training Day. You're just like, wow, what is going on? I love it. But yeah, it's Dracula. He's Dracula in this thing.
I feel that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would. I'm gonna go to the recommendation corner, and since it's a celebration, Huss Kingpin. I'm gonna go with HNIC. Hempstead African American Gentleman in Charge. And it is Smooth and Huss Kingpin, and it is from 2016. And you can hear the bones of what makes Huss so weird, because there's a song, track 8 on this thing is Colors of a Butterfly. And Huss just starts talking about the colors of a butterfly. He's a weird dude. He sees it. He sees the world in a different way, and I love it, man. I can't get enough. So, I'm binging the Huss right now. There will come a time where I'll do something else, but I don't know, because it's fun. Do you have any recommendations? Rap music plug? Hit me.
So are we talking, what is this? Like, are you just recommending anything?
Recommend anything you want people to listen to. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Oh shit. I wish I was prepared. Okay, Diggy, do you have anything? Because I have my iTunes open. I'm gonna do like a 5-second search here.
Recommend.
Shoot. You're like 2021, like it's got off to a slow start. You know what I mean? Like there hasn't really been aside, like I was surprised that all 3 of these albums were released in 2021. And that's actually a point that I wanted to kind of bring up, and we'll give everyone time to think about the recommendations. But like, how in the landscape that we're in, how do new artists break? You know what I mean? Like, how do like I was thinking like a NYCK Caution. How does he get more shine? Like, how does he get on in today's musical setting?
Well, so you're talking about a new artist, a new version of
it. or even like an artist that's looking to make that leap.
I've got a theory. Do you have anything to bring to it, bro?
You can go first.
All right. So here's what I would say. The dynamic of this stuff is that summer is a big time for albums, right? Record labels, they're rolling, right?
Mm-hmm.
The budget. Then they have some late in the year albums. The albums that major record labels put out in January and February tend to be albums shelved by the label. Artists that are not in favor, not so they're just kind of dumped out there.
Mm-hmm.
This is an advantage for the independent artist.
Yeah.
If you are independent and you drop a dope album in January, February, you can make a name the whole year. Okay, Diggy, look at when did Anderson .Paak drop that album that everybody loved? Not NX Worries, the other one.
I actually feel like,
which one?
I feel like that was in February.
I actually think you're right. Like you're talking about the one with the piano. He's on the piano in the cover.
Yep.
Yeah. So the one like he blew up.
Yep. I feel like that was dropped early in the year, and it kind of ran the rest of the year. Let me. It's Malibu.
Yeah.
Malibu, January 15th.
Wow, that is yeah. Shit, good call there.
Good call.
Oh yeah, that's and I just remember him. DJ Booth was writing about that. Malibu's still the best album of the year. Like, and it was just kind of kept rolling. So if you're an independent artist, this is your pocket because the labels, they don't want any part of January, February.
Good point.
That's
so you got to give it your best shot. Okay, that's a very good.
Come on swinging.
Come out swinging.
And I don't know if this will necessarily, like, it's a difficult ask because you have to find someone who's talented. But from the rapper perspective, I feel like at this point, it's becoming the norm to have like one producer albums again. Like that used to be like Run the Jewels is a big reason why that came back, in my opinion. But that's my favorite, like one of my favorite trends going on. And if you can just find a producer, he doesn't even need to be like DJ Premier level. Like he can just be pretty good. But if you can have like a chemistry that just separates you, that at least makes people feel like they know what they're going into, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like Ransom and Craven's a big example. I was kind of late on them. But I was just hearing about them non-fucking stop all year. Ransom and Craven, and I knew who Ransom was. I'd heard about him, listened to him, liked it, but I never really went for him for any reason. But they just kept putting out work that was just displaying such a high level of chemistry that it was just irresistible to go check it out. And now I'm really liking it. Obviously you have to be good, but like find a good up and coming producer. I think it's J.R. Swift, and I always say his name wrong. Him and Elzai, like that's this is not the same example. Elzai's established, but like right. JR got a relationship with Elzai, made an entire project, and I didn't realize that I had heard him a bunch of times. He's made beats with Griselda, quite a bit of good placements, but just making that in the inverse way, the rapper tagging along with a producer no one's as aware of. Now he's on my radar. Like I'm 100% highly anticipating anything he puts out. And it's just that one producer, one rapper chemistry for me personally. I'm always so much more attracted to check it out and have a good album cover, because that's just never changes for me. I just like instantly will be so biased to be like, yeah, but like the Concept Jackson Obliv album. I don't know if any of you have heard that.
Oh, yeah.
The album cover, just like, I just love looking at it. It's so fucking hot. Like, like I just want to look at it. It's a magazine cover. It looks so nice.
K Diggy, you got to find this album cover. Concept Jackson and Obliv.
It's magazine reissue. You'll find it like with that.
It's so good. But I would, yes, I mean, it's, and the weird part is I'm in the same boat with Ransom, and I'm embarrassed because this started, I started this website in like 2010, right? And it was covering mixtapes. So I know Ransom. I've known Ransom the whole time. And I was always like, yeah, it's Ransom. He's fine. Like I was always like, it's cool. It never really spoke to me. It never really broke out. But you press play on his stuff with Craven, and it's different world. And I think find a producer where you bring the best out of each other at the same time, right? Like that relationship builds both of you. Run the Jewels is an example, right?
Oh yeah.
Killer Mike has changed the way LP raps in a positive way, right? LP's production has changed the way Mike raps and performs in a positive way. Like the relationship builds positively. Armand Hammer, right? Those guys build each other every album. And if you can do that, you're in good shape. You're in good shape. That's what happened. Craven gives a different texture to Ransom that sets off everything I missed.
I feel that. I have my recommendations if you're ready for that.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go.
So I'm gonna start with a non-rap one, just because I just don't hear this album get talked about. But it's Liv's Couldn't Wait to Tell You. It's a kind of like neo soul, but has these like psychedelic soul, but it's very hip hop. Like hip hop fans will like this album. Like the production is like very psychedelic chops of jazz, and like the producer, I believe his name is something I can't pronounce, like Megwan. And I
Yep.
know he's worked with Pink Saifu, and Liv has made music with Pink Saifu, Fly
Yep.
Annie, those guys. This album is phenomenal. Came out last year. So highly recommend that. But a rap one, I feel like you guys have talked about all the albums. I'm like, oh yeah, definitely should mention that. But you guys have talked about it, which is a good thing. I'll say the album, because we mentioned the artist, Willie the Kid's Capital Gains from last year. That album was sneaky good. That another guy that I always liked, but didn't check out too much of his work in full until last year. Capital Gains is such a good album, and it actually does have kind of a low-key theme about like money and like
Right.
independence and freedom, kind of creatively. And production quality is just fantastic, and I just love his rapping style. And interestingly enough, I was listening to Dedication 2 by Lil Wayne for some
Yep.
around when he released that mixtape that was completely bad, no ceilings. He was on that album. He's on that mixtape. And I didn't realize that Willie the Kid's been out for so long. I was like, what?
Absolute
I was
fiction.
like, what the hell? This is the same Willie the Kid. I was like,
relentless guy. I mean, it's a great pick. By the way, the Live, that album was in my top 5 end of the year.
oh wow.
Live.
Yeah.
I
It'd be up there for me for sure.
I adore it. So I'm with you 100% on that. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely, man.
We always appreciate, I mean, we see things a lot in the same direction. So I appreciated having you here for this crop of albums.
Yeah, no, I this was a blast. I had a lot of fun. It's my first time doing this is more live, right, than my recorded by myself. So the new for me, but you guys were very warm, welcoming, and really appreciate it. And I would love to do this again if I'm ever so lucky.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. I would just like to say that before we go, rappers, keep rapping about Mike Bibby. I appreciate every bar that you write about the career of Mike Bibby. He's a treasure, and thank you.
So this concludes today's episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some fresh new perspectives on the latest rap releases, as well as a recommendation for the next great rap record to add to your collection. But now that I've spoken, it's your turn to have your voice heard. So let's stay in touch. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Rohview, ROHVIEW, to connect with me on a personal level, where you'll be able to interact with my thoughts and perspectives on music, surely, but also on politics and sports as well. If you're an artist who wants to get their new song or album reviewed on the show, hit me up via email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com or just send me a DM on Twitter or Instagram. I would love to give you public feedback through a review or private feedback if that's what you'd prefer. I would love to be a part of helping you grow as an artist. For exclusive content and updates related to the show, follow the Rap Music Plug podcast on Facebook. You can find all of this information along with exclusive playlists created by myself by clicking the link that's in the episode's notes. So that's all for today. Talk to you soon. Peace.